I knew something was off the second I stepped onto the patio. Everyone was already there. Suits, dresses, the catered bar lined up, string quartet playing some overplayed wedding tune. And I still showed up in a clean pressed navy suit I had picked up from the dry cleaner that morning. I looked sharp. Not flashy, just respectful, appropriate. I paid for half the damn thing after all, and then my dad's voice cut through the music like a knife. "Get this bum out of here." Everything froze. People turned. Forks hovered midair. My heart thudded in my chest, but I didn't move. He was standing near the bar, red-faced, pointing right at me like I was a trespasser. I said, "Get him out! Security!" That was the part that made my jaw clench, the way he looked past me, yelling to the security guard like I was trash, like I was some nobody trying to crash a stranger's party. The guard hesitated. He looked confused, glanced at me, then at my dad. He didn't grab me, didn't move, just stood there awkward as hell, waiting for me to decide whether I was gonna fight or walk. I looked at my mom. She stood near the cakes, staring off at the trees like she suddenly found the landscaping really interesting. My sister Hannah, smirking, arms crossed, leaning into Jared like she'd just won the final round of some sick game I didn't even know I was playing. Nobody said a word. Not one person stopped it. I didn't speak either. I just turned around, walked right out the way I came in, calm on the outside. But my hands were shaking so bad I could barely pull my keys out of my pocket. Once I got in my car, I sat for maybe 5 seconds, just breathing. Then I opened the event folder I kept in my glove compartment, the one with every vendor, every reservation, every single charge tied to that wedding. I started tapping through my phone, one by one, canceled the catering, pulled the payment on the honeymoon flights, logged into the condo management portal, turned off access, locked it all down. They wanted me out? Fine. But I was taking everything I paid for with me. By the time I pulled into my driveway, my phone was vibrating nonstop. First it was my mom, then Hannah, then Dad's cell. I didn't answer. A bunch of unknown numbers popped up next. Voicemails stacked one after another, some yelling, some panicked, all of them too late. I walked inside, locked the door, and turned off the ringer. 15 minutes later, the banging started. Not a knock, straight up fists slamming into the front door like it owed him money. I peeked out the side window. Jared, no jacket, tie hanging loose, sweat down the side of his temple. I opened the door just wide enough so he knew I wasn't hiding. "You need to fix this. Now." His voice cracked. Rage and desperation rolled together. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I stayed calm. "Be specific. What needs fixing?" He stepped forward like he might force his way in. I didn't move, just held his eyes and waited. "The food's gone. Cancelled. Hotels saying reservations are void. Rooms are locked. Flights to Maui deleted from the system. What did you do?" I shrugged once. "I stopped paying." "You can't do that," he barked. "You promised. You paid deposits. We signed contracts." "I signed contracts," I corrected him. "Under my LLC. All of it was under my business." He blinked like that part hadn't fully clicked until now. I turned and walked to the coffee table, grabbed the thick black folder I had sitting there. I'd started building it 3 years ago, when Hannah first announced the engagement, and Dad joked that I'd probably be footing the bill anyway since I had nothing better to do with my money. I opened the folder and laid it out right on the entryway table, page by page. Contracts, payment records, email confirmations, cancellation terms, my signature on every dotted line. Jared's mouth tightened. He scanned a few pages but didn't touch anything. "This is insane. You're punishing her, punishing all of us, because you didn't get a red carpet or whatever the hell you thought you deserved." I looked him dead in the eye. "I warned you. I warned her. I warned them. You don't humiliate the person holding the keys to the building." He shook his head. "So, you're just blowing up your own sister's wedding?" "No, I'm protecting my investment." He laughed once, dry, bitter. "You're unbelievable." "No, Jared. What's unbelievable is your whole family standing there and letting it happen, watching like it was entertainment." He didn't have a comeback. I pointed at the contracts again. "I was a silent partner, not your damn doormat. I didn't ask for anything but respect. You all made your choice." He paced 2 steps back toward the door, hands on his hips. "Do you know what this is doing to Hannah, to your mom?" "Not my problem anymore." He turned like he was going to say something else, then stopped. Walked out without another word. As soon as the door shut, I slid the folder back into its case. Then I poured myself a glass of water, hands still steady, voice still level. But my stomach was tight. Not guilt, not even anger. Just this raw pressure building in my chest like I'd finally lit a fuse that had been sitting there for years. Let them scramble. Let them figure out how deep they let this go without thinking once about who made it all happen. Because they thought I'd take the hit quietly. Not this time. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was second-guessing anything. I wasn't. But the noise didn't stop. By morning, my inbox was overflowing. Texts, emails, voicemails. Some begging me to fix things before it's too late. Others saying I was being petty, ungrateful, dramatic. A few threatened to expose the real story if I didn't reverse the cancellations. Not one of them apologized. Not one of them said, "We screwed up." I was sitting at my kitchen table, sifting through the pile of digital trash, when a forwarded message popped up from my cousin Tyler. He just wrote, "Thought you'd want to see this." Attached was a screenshot of a group text thread. The name of the chat was Family Core. I hadn't even known it existed. At the bottom was Hannah's message. "He's always been so sensitive. He'll come crawling back when he realizes he can't afford to burn bridges." Someone else had replied with a laughing emoji. I stared at it for a second, then typed one line back and hit reply all. Just a reminder, I own the building and changed the locks. Didn't wait for their reaction. Just let it sit there like a brick through a stained glass window. Around 11, I got an email from Harold Barnett, the family's longtime accountant. Straightforward subject line, meeting request, condo ownership records. I replied, "Come by at 2, bring everything. Bring Monday bees." He showed up on time, like always. Still wore the same gray sweater vest and wire-frame glasses I remembered from when I was a teenager. But this time, he looked uncomfortable. "I want to be clear," he said as he sat down at my kitchen table. "This isn't me picking sides." I didn't offer him coffee. "You said there was a problem." He opened his laptop, pulled up a few files. "There are inconsistencies with how the beach property was reported. It was labeled under the family trust as a gift from a private investor." "Investor?" I raised an eyebrow. Harold hesitated. "Your father's words, not mine." I stood up, walked over to the hallway closet, pulled out the same thick folder from before, flipped to the section labeled Condo Acquisition, Ocean View Property LLC. I dropped the documents in front of him. Paid in full 3 years ago. Registered under my company. Monthly fees auto-paid from my business account. Taxes filed separately. Never touched the trust. He clicked through his files again, slower this time. "This says otherwise. Your parents told me it was handled privately, off books, by a family friend." I just stared at him. He leaned back and exhaled. "If they use that statement to move trust assets into the renovation budget, we're looking at potential fraud." "That's not a warning. That's just math." I nodded once. "Then we've got a bigger problem than canceled shrimp cocktails." Harold didn't argue. He just closed his laptop, said he'd be in touch, and left without shaking my hand. The cracks were showing, not just in the story, but in the whole foundation. And now they were finally starting to realize they'd built the entire thing on top of my name. The next morning, I booked the earliest appointment Sierra had. Downtown office, 10th floor, big windows, no nonsense. She greeted me like always, clipped tone, straight to business. "You've got them cornered. You want to make it official?" I pulled out the folder again. "Let's lock it down." She nodded and got to work, typing fast, barely looking up. "We'll start with a cease and desist. That covers any false representation of your assets, including the condo. I'll also file the property reassignment paperwork today. Move title ownership legally and permanently to your name. As of now, it's still listed under your LLC, but they've been treating it like trust property." "They've been calling it a gift from an investor," I said. She actually laughed. "Jesus, that's not just shady, that's criminal if it touched the trust," which it sounds like it did. By the time I left her office, the paperwork was filed, the emails sent, and the legal wall was up. They couldn't touch it now, even if they wanted to. I was back in my car when the first voicemail came through. My mom, she was crying. I could hear her trying to breathe between words, trying to sound like the one who'd been betrayed. "Honey, please, this is going too far. It's just a misunderstanding. You're blowing it up. You don't understand how this looks to people." I listened to it once, then deleted it. Her words didn't land, not after what they'd done. Later that night, I got the email from my accountant. Simple subject line: confirmation, transfer complete. The condo was officially, legally, fully mine. No ties to the trust, no access, locked. I texted Sierra right away. "It's done." She responded almost instantly. "Then it's your call. You want to go further?" I didn't hesitate. "Yes. Open a full audit of the family trust." She called me 30 seconds later. "You sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." "Okay," she said. "Then we're going to tear this whole thing apart." We hung up, and I sat there on my couch, phone still in my hand, screen dark. No shaking this time, no tight chest, just clarity. They'd built a system where I was supposed to give, no questions asked, while they skimmed off the top and called it love. Now they were going to answer for it. The audit didn't take long. That was the first thing Sierra warned me about. "When records are clean, this drags," she said over the phone. "When they're not, it unravels fast." It unraveled fast. She called me into her office 3 days later. Same downtown building, same 10th floor, but the air felt heavier this time. She had stacks of printed statements spread across the conference table, color-coded tabs sticking out like warning flags. She didn't ease into it. "We're already past $60,000. I didn't react, just nodded once and leaned back in the chair. She slid one page toward me. This was labeled Emergency Home Repairs. It was a charge from 2 summers ago. I recognized the vendor name immediately, high-end design firm. "That's Hannah's kitchen," I said. Sierra nodded. "Full remodel. Cabinets, appliances, custom lighting." She slid another page. These were marked education expenses. Spa weekends, front row concert tickets, hotel suites in cities Hannah liked to post about online. I let out a slow breath through my nose. She doesn't even pretend to be subtle. Sierra didn't smile. She moved to the next tab. This one hurt the most when I traced it. She tapped the line item with her pen. "Vintage truck restoration, paid in installments." I felt my jaw tighten. "That's my dad's." "Yes," she said, and it came directly out of the graduation fund. That one landed, hard. That fund was supposed to help me after college, supposed to be the cushion, the thing they told me about every time I said I didn't need help. Turns out, I paid for his damn hobby instead. Sierra watched my face carefully. "This isn't just misuse. This is misappropriation. And depending on how the trust was represented to financial institutions, it could cross into criminal territory." I stared at the papers, the dates, the notes in my parents' handwriting scanned into digital files, justifications that sounded official until you actually read them. "So, what happens now?" I asked. "That depends on you," she said. "We can stop here, force repayment quietly, keep it civil, or we file." "File what?" "A claim for trust misappropriation and financial recompense. Full disclosure, full trail." I didn't answer right away, not because I was torn, but because I wanted to be precise. "They never once asked," I said. "Not for permission, not for help. They just took." Sierra nodded. "That matters." I leaned forward and signed where she pointed. "We file." She gathered the documents into a clean stack, slid them into a folder, and stood up. "Then this becomes formal." As I left her office, my phone buzzed again. Another message from my mom, another from my aunt. I didn't open them. I walked out into the sunlight, crossed the street, and kept moving. No more pretending this was a misunderstanding. No more letting them call theft family business. I'd drawn the line. Now I was backing it with ink. I was halfway through a cold sandwich at my kitchen counter when her text came in. "I'm scared. Please don't ruin the family over money." No apology, no ownership, just fear. I stared at it for a second, chewed, and replied with one line. "Ruin? You mean reveal." Didn't wait for a response. Just put the phone face down and finished eating. An hour later, I started getting the Instagram DMs. Screenshots. Hannah had posted a story. Picture of her and Jared smiling at some wine bar with a caption that read, "Watch out for fake relatives and money chasers. Blood isn't always loyal." I didn't respond, didn't post anything back. Let her scream into the void, because she knew exactly who she was talking about. And so did everyone else. The next day, Sierra called. I picked up on the first ring. "They finally lawyered up," she said. "Just got an email." What did they offer? I asked. 50 grand, no wrongdoing admitted, mutual release of claims, and a non-disclosure agreement. I didn't say anything. Sierra laughed through the phone. They're terrified. This isn't about money anymore. They're trying to patch the cracks before the walls come down. The NDA alone tells me they're hiding more. I shook my head. I don't want their money. I figured, she said, but I had to run it by you. I leaned against the counter, staring at the quiet street outside my window. I want it on paper. I want it public. They don't get to bury this. Sierra's voice dropped. Then we reject the offer and we prepare for court. Good. That night, I got another text from my mom. She didn't ask me to call. She didn't admit to anything. Just sent, "Your sister's not doing well. She won't talk to anyone. Please, can we stop this before it's too late?" I didn't respond, because the truth was, it had already happened, years ago. This wasn't a break. It was a reveal, and I wasn't the one tearing things apart. I was just done pretending they were whole in the first place. He showed up without calling, just walked into the office lobby like a regular client, gave my name at the front desk, and waited. My assistant buzzed me. "There's a Mr. Reynolds here to see you. Says he's your father." I told her to send him in. He came in slow, like the room might explode if he moved wrong. He didn't sit, just stood near the door, shoulders tight, jaw locked. "You made your point," he said, voice low. "You're ruining us." I leaned back in my chair. "No, you did that. I'm just the first one who stopped covering it up." He finally stepped forward, pulled a folded slip of paper from his coat pocket, and set it on the desk between us. Blank check. Signature already there. "You name the amount. We walk away from this. You don't need to burn it all down just to win." I didn't even look at it. I slid it right back across the desk. "This was never about your money," I said. "It was about mine." He stared at me, eyes tight. "You think this makes you better?" "No," I said, "but it makes me free." We didn't shake hands, didn't say goodbye. He walked out with nothing, same way I did from that wedding. An hour later, I got the notification. Court date set, it was official. We weren't a family anymore, we were a case. By the next morning, the family chat exploded, or so I was told. I was still blocked, which honestly made it easier. Tyler forwarded me a few screenshots, dozens of messages flying back and forth. My mom claiming he's doing this for attention, my dad blaming bad advice, and Hannah typing in all caps, he's suing his own family. Then she messaged me directly. First time since the wedding. "If you go through with this, I'll never forgive you." I stared at it for a second, then closed the app. I didn't respond. She'd already made it clear what forgiveness from her was worth. Court day came fast. It was gray outside, early, too quiet. The kind of morning where everything feels like it's waiting to shift. I wore a simple black suit, no tie. Sierra met me outside the courthouse with her tablet in one hand and a file in the other. "You ready?" she asked. "I've been ready." We walked in together. They were already there. My parents sat on the left side of the room. My dad in a wrinkled blue blazer, looking 10 years older than last week. My mom next to him, clutching a tissue like someone had died. In a way, something had. I didn't acknowledge them, didn't nod, didn't flinch. Hannah wasn't there. Court came to order. Sierra stood up first. No theatrics, just facts. She ran through everything. Payments, dates, bank transfers, signatures, charts. She handed over printed records, screenshots, audit results. Showed exactly how over $60,000 had moved from the family trust into personal projects, with my name used as cover for a lot of it. The judge didn't ask many questions. He didn't need to. The paper trail spoke louder than anything else in the room. Then he looked at me. "What do you want from this?" I didn't hesitate. Truth. On paper. Not money, not silence, not apologies I'd never believe. Just the record, the full record of what they did and who they did it to. The judge nodded, took a breath, and gave the ruling. Restitution required in full. My condo, legally and solely mine. Family removed from all current and future access to the trust. All fraudulent use to be reported for review. I exhaled slowly, felt something leave my chest that had been sitting there for years. My parents didn't say a word as I walked out, but they looked small, not just quiet, small. Like the power they always held had finally cracked, and they didn't know who they were without it. And me? I walked out of that courtroom with no applause, no cameras, no hugs, just peace. And that was enough. The silence was immediate. No texts, no calls, no emails pretending to check in or ask if I'd changed my mind. They all disappeared like the whole thing never happened. And honestly, I expected that. Once the spotlight wasn't on them, they'd rather vanish than face what came next. The house was quiet. Days passed like that. No drama, no noise, just the slow, clean hum of distance. Then, one morning, I found an envelope on the floor inside my front door. No stamp, no return address, just plain white, slid under like a message in a war zone. I opened it without thinking. Inside was a single photo, glossy, full color. Looked professional, probably one of the ones taken by the wedding photographer before everything blew up. It showed me mid-step, walking away from the banquet. My back to the room, suit sharp, expression unreadable. On the back, written in blue ink, was one line. "This is when it all fell apart." Hannah's handwriting. I'd know it anywhere. I stared at it for maybe 10 seconds. No emotion, just confirmation. I fed it into the shredder next to my desk. Because what fell apart wasn't family. It was the illusion, the myth that just because we shared blood, it meant I owed them my peace, my money, my silence. That same afternoon, I opened a new folder on my desktop, named it Hunter Grant. It was an idea I'd been sitting on for years, but never acted on. Something small, focused, real. A program for men like me. Guys from toxic families, expected to give until they snapped, then blamed when they stopped. Seed funding was easy. I had everything I needed, connections, experience, money they didn't drain. The mission was simple. Help guys who walked away from family, not because they didn't care, but because no one ever cared about them. For the first time, I wasn't just cutting ties. I was building something, not out of bitterness, out of clarity. And I wasn't doing it to be seen. I was doing it so someone else wouldn't have to walk alone. 6 months went by. Not a single call, no texts, no "let's talk" emails. They were out of my life, not by some dramatic speech or final scream, just quiet mutual erasure. Like we'd all agreed to pretend none of it ever happened. No more guilt-drenched voicemails, no sudden family emergencies, no more polite demands disguised as tradition. The condo sold last month, full asking price, clean closing. I wired every cent of profit into the Hunter Grant account. It's running now, quietly. Small circles, one-on-one support, real impact. Guys like me, burnt-out sons, scapegoated brothers, black sheep with a paper trail of being too much. They're getting help. Not a lecture, not judgment, just support. A roof if they need it. A laptop, legal advice, a clean place to start. I used to think walking away would make me bitter. But truth is, I've never felt lighter. For once, I'm not holding anyone else up. Not covering, not fixing, not explaining things I didn't break. I don't feel regret. I feel relief. Because I finally understand something they never wanted me to learn. The only thing worse than being used is pretending it's love. That chapter's over, and I didn't just close it. I locked it.